Hello, Steeler Nation, and welcome to your SteelerNation.com podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G.Stryker, and still with me, my undefeated co-host from Pittsburgh, Hunter Homistek. How you doing, Hunter?
I like the champion intro always gets me hyped. I appreciate that, man.
Being an MMA guy, I got to keep pumping that one up, man.
Absolutely. I need walkout music one of these weeks. Like we need to cue up some nice heavy metal. Yeah.
Did it. So quickly, just want to recap for our title sponsor here. Everybody that's on our live feed here on Facebook can see while I share the screen here with us. When I get to the right one, that's the wrong one. Of course, I always do the wrong one first because that's how I run a screen. But here we go. This week, we have free giveaway for a signed Deontay Johnson Color Rush jersey from Total Sports Enterprises, our name sponsor. Go on over to their Twitter page at Total Sports ENT and just retweet it, and you're entered. Easiest way to win. Winners get a jersey, and you'll know tomorrow if you won. And that's every Monday we get a new jersey to give away on game day weeks. Every Wednesday we know who the new winner is. So good luck, Steeler Nation. Facebook, Twitter, jump on at Total Sports ENT. Retweet that picture of Deontay Johnson signing his name right there on his jersey, and you will be automatically entered to win that Color Rush jersey. So good luck, Steeler Nation. He had a big game, 100 yards plus. So, of course, they got to highlight the big guy for this week.
I love it, man. I love how they always do that. It's really cool. And just a retweet, come on. That's not asking for much. You might as well enter in there. And as you guys know, all year I've been wanting a Deontay Johnson jersey anyway, so I may even jump in and enter that one.
I know. He's our guy. We will be getting to the running game questions later in the show. I know people are asking here on Twitter. Personally, I want to ask something personally from you, Hunter. I mean, we're 9-0 right now. Do you have any superstitions that you do or game day routines to keep our team undefeated?
Not at all, honestly. I've never been a superstitious guy in any walk of life, and especially whenever it deals with something that does not concern me at all. You know, if I played for the Steelers, maybe I would be thinking more superstitious, but I am under no delusion that what I do at my house has any effect on how they perform on game day. So maybe I'm just a little too realistic about it, but I do tend to get the get-go buffalo tenders before every game. So
well, then that's a routine. So
it is like my pregame routine, and then so I'll get some get-go buffalo tendies rolling, and obviously some nice cold beers at home. So that's a combo I'm not mad about repeating every Sunday.
So for me, I've got a lot of routines. I would say I'm not superstitious, but here are my routines. You let me know if you think I'm superstitious or not. Number one is always every year, never wash my terrible towel from the start of the season when I start wearing it through when they get knocked out of the playoffs. That's the only time I'll wash my terrible towel. That's number one. Always have to have the same terrible towel every week because I got a bunch of them. Though I do have a playoff terrible towel that I use. Second superstition that I've been doing all this year, and this is specific for this year. I've never done this before. I've only worn my Big Ben jersey all year. I've got lots of jerseys, only been wearing the Big Ben jersey this year, and I haven't been washing it.
All right, fair.
So
you are superstitious.
That may be bordering on superstition because I'm now to the point where, like, well, I'm not washing my towel, so I might as well not wash my jersey.
Yeah.
So my other thing that I do within games and Twitter, I mean, Steeler fans, you guys know, if I'm sitting in a spot during the game and they're not doing well, I will get up and sit somewhere else.
Wow.
So I guess that one has to be a superstition.
Dude.
And
you're way in.
And here's another thing as a beer guy. I will not drink a beer from the state of the team we are playing.
That's really fair, dude. That's funny. That's a great superstition. I was just thinking about that too. That's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I do some work for this Hampton beer outlet in Allison Park out here, and they, for the Ravens week, want to like hype up some kind of Steelers-Ravens rivalry. And I was thinking of take like local Pittsburgh beer versus beers from Baltimore and just like buy, you know, if you're a Ravens fan, you buy the Baltimore beer. If you're a Steelers fan, buy the Pittsburgh beer. Like figure something out.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh's beer is way better. Way better.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I'm from the Baltimore area. I am
Yeah.
a big Natty Boh drinker. We were on Team Natty Boh back in college. We started it back in the late 90s. And Natty Boh is essentially like it's just like PBR. It's very easy drinking. To me, it's more easy drinking than IC. Though I love IC, I can drink IC when I'm out in Pitt, and that's what I do drink on game days out in Pitt because it's easy to drink.
Yeah.
But I love me some Natty Boh as well, so I hear that.
I won't hold it against you.
So now being 9-0, we got to watch that nightcap game of the Ravens Patriots and learn now that we're 3 games up on the division with a game in hand on both the Ravens and Cleveland. I mean, what the hell is up with the Ravens right now?
Just don't look good, man. I was watching that game and really they didn't look threatening in any phase. Now, in their defense, and I know I'm probably going to make some Yinzers and Steelers fans angry defending the Ravens in any capacity. Those were some terrible conditions that game, man. The weather was insane. They just could not get anything going. It was not favoring them. Sometimes you can see the weather kind of equalize if a team is clearly better than another. I think about that Steelers-Dolphins game years ago. That was the mud bowl with the punt that just plugged
in the ground. The 3-0 game or something like that.
The Steelers realistically should have blown out or at least beat the Dolphins pretty handedly in that one, but instead it turns into a 3-0 game where nobody could do anything. So sometimes the weather can just equalize it, level the playing field a little bit. The Ravens are better than they looked that night, but I will say it's nice to know that the Ravens can play down to that level. They looked bad. They looked worse than the Steelers had at any point. Maybe the Cowboys game, the Steelers looked that bad, but it's nice to see them underperform like that.
And my takeaways from that game is, Bill Belichick went in and did what he does when he faces another team, and that is take away their best player and their best option, and that is allowing Lamar Jackson to run the football. They completely denied that. They forced him to throw. He's already an inaccurate passer. Now that he's throwing in these conditions, it makes it near impossible to throw these balls.
Yeah.
So great job for them for scheming for that type of game. But the converse thing was the weather kind of should have, evened out that entire aspect, to tell you the truth, because the way the Ravens are built, they're built on the run, so they should be able to run the ball in crap weather, and they're built to stop the run. So, and that game suited their style of play. It's what they're built for. It's how they win games. And it shows that even in a situation where they have to rely on their strengths, they've shown that they cannot win a game in certain situations, like when they played against us and now when they played against New England in New England.
And not to mention the Patriots have to face a running quarterback like that in practice every day. So they should be used to, chasing Cam Newton down, chasing Lamar down.
Yeah.
They undoubtedly understand how to stop that kind of offense. And the Patriots coaching staff obviously knows the weaknesses, the shortcomings of it, and then kind of how to exploit that on the opposite side. So it doesn't surprise me that they would handle Lamar exceptionally well. Like you said, they're kind of built for that, but the Ravens were built to win a game like that too. So it was just an interesting matchup. The Patriots are one of those teams, man. I'm not counting them out until they're mathematically out.
Yeah, and I know I said going into the last week's game, I was, kind of scared that I really didn't like the matchup. I was afraid of the Steelers defense against a pure passing quarterback. And from now on, I am never going to take that stance again, because the way that our defense and secondary specifically shut down Joe Burrow, who had been feasting on NFL defenses and good ones for the past 4 or 5 weeks, was completely nullified. And that was, so that was great to watch.
I loved early. The wind was so bad at that game that neither Ben nor Burrow could pass. And that did the Steelers a favor, I think, in not letting Burrow get in any kind of rhythm early. I think that kind of affected him. He just wasn't able to establish that rhythm. They had the one nice drive before halftime. Their touchdown drive, their long touchdown drive was very nice. That was kind of Burrow at his best. But other than that, man, they really could just not get anything going. Running game was non-existent. I still think, and I still maintain, Burrow to T. Higgins is going to be a lethal combination in the AFC North for a while to come. T. Higgins looked very good. I still think Burrow is better than he looked, but man, it's like we said, that's not this when we were joking about Andy Dalton getting COVID on purpose. That's just not the defense you want to face if you're a quarterback or you're a young quarterback or you have any kind of struggles you're working through. Just not the defense you want to see, man. They were putting him on his butt late. That's now a couple weeks in a row that the Steelers pass rush was slow out of the gates, pressuring the quarterback, but at the end of the game just completely took over. So it's nice to see those guys that we rely on the defensive line and the outside linebackers revving it up as the game goes, because I think that's what really great teams do. They just suck your will to live. By the end of the game, they were getting to Burrow. It seemed like every drop back he was getting hit. So that was kind of the slow burn for the defense. Obviously the turnovers. Cam Sutton with another forced fumble, now 3 games in a row for him.
And limited snaps and sub packages. I mean, he's a monster out there right now.
Yeah, so talk about stepping up in the absence of Mike Hilton, who may or may not be back this week. It sounds like he probably will be, but kudos to Sutton making the most of his time. That's what the coaching staff, coaches always want to see from guys, is just when you get the opportunity, rise to it. I think it's safe to say that Cam Sutton did rise to it. A couple big plays allowed here and there, but he showed a nose for the ball and an ability to generate turnovers, which, they're always going to love.
Yeah, and showing right here, I'm just going to go through one quarterback, at least on the day, did not have a problem throwing the football, and that was Ben Roethlisberger. Oh, that's the wrong one. My gosh. I go and queue up the wrong damn thing.
Yeah, it was a nice completion for Burrow, though.
Yeah, it was. And I think I hit that off. Yeah, so I'll have to re-queue that up later. But either way, I had Ben's highlights. Here are Ben's highlights.
There we go.
Now I can cue these. Now you can see it. You can see them?
I can't see them now.
Okay, well then I'll share my screen. So everybody watching on Facebook now can watch Big Ben, who
there he is.
This was a windy day. It was tough to throw, and we couldn't run the football. We had trouble getting the game going. Still, Ben showed he had little to no trouble moving the football once everything was spread out and he was hitting his targets. In another game with 46 attempts, he's over 300 yards, 333.
Yep.
4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, that's just as efficient as you can get coming out in these kind of conditions. Just going to prove that, and it's, a little bit more for the talking heads that don't want to give Ben credit for how good of a quarterback that he is, but you put Brady in this situation, you put Rodgers in this situation with these win conditions, I don't know if they can do as well.
He was surgical. I definitely tweeted during the game. It's his best game of the year by far, just not even statistically, and I know it was statistically as well, but just watching his pocket presence, his ability to sense the rush, step up, the touchdown pass to Juju, stepping up in the pocket and delivering that strike to Juju in the back of the end zone was just like, that's prime gosh. Ben. There's a handful of quarterbacks in the NFL that can do that at their best, and he's one of them. And spreading the ball around once again, like we're used to, it's kind of all Deontay early, and then more of an Ebron and Juju approach as the game wore on. Claypool, of course, coming up big again. I mean, it's like we said all year, dude. When they want to spread it out, it's actually indefensible. So it was surgical from Ben. But in his we'll tamper a little bit. In his defense, he threw a pick 6 that Bates just straight up dropped.
Yeah, he did.
There was
agreed.
It wasn't flawless. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. But looking at his stats, at least, he just had his 24th win against Cincinnati, which is the most wins that a quarterback has had against any other team. Also, no sacks let up, so kudos to the offensive line when you're dropping back 46 times. That's huge, especially banging up both knees the previous game. Yeah. And he has tied his record for 2007 and 2014 with the most touchdowns in 9 games with 22. So he's on pace right now to possibly get a career high.
He's on pace for something I saw, like 39 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, I think, which would be that's a fantastic stat. I mean, especially for Ben, who is never known for being this Aaron Rodgers model of efficiency. Yeah. I mean, that's like a total transformation for him. So that's awesome to see. And one thing I want to note, too, against the Bengals that I definitely noticed was early on, the Bengals were getting their hands all over balls, batting balls down at the line like we'd seen on those quick passes. Yeah. And, man, did he turned on the pump fake as that game wore on and was tearing them up with this. They couldn't jump, and if they did jump, they were jumping at a pump. It completely nullified that problem. So, I mean, maybe that's the answer. If the offensive line is going to hold up like that and give him that extra half second he needs, that could be all it takes. And that was just an awesome adjustment from him. It was really cool to see that as the game wore on.
That's a great call, and that's a nuance that a lot of Steeler fans might not have noticed because those tip balls were killing us in that Tennessee game, and I did notice them early as well. But you're right that by second three quarters of the last three quarters, I don't think he got a single ball tipped.
Yeah. And he was tearing them up with it. Like, it wasn't even just that. It was helping the passing attack in general. Another big week from Juju too, man. I tweeted, they need to just switch his number to 86. I'm fully in. I'm fully in on the Juju becoming Hines Ward thing. It's just, that's what's happening. That's what I see from Juju, man. He's tough. He's hard to bring down. He's making all the clutch catches. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. And I will say Hines Ward-esque because there's just no Hines Ward because Juju is a much bigger receiver than Hines was. I mean, I think Hines was like 6 foot.
Yeah, he wasn't big.
6'2".
Yeah.
So, I mean, and Juju just looks just enormous. I mean, yeah, Hines was built like pretty wide in the chest as well, but Juju just looks like he packed on so much muscle this offseason.
He did, man. He's jacked right now for sure, and it's definitely showing on the field. Doesn't seem to have hurt his speed too much either. So good for him, man. That's awesome.
And unfortunately, we got to talk about our running game a little bit here. I mean, Connor with 36 yards on 13 carries, 2.8 average. I mean, the run game's kind of in the tank right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about 79 carries for 232 over the last 4 games, averaging 2.9 over that. So this is the third game in a row where the Steelers have been held under 50 yards. And they had 48 yards, 46 yards, and then 44 yards this past week. And that is the first time in franchise history that has ever happened for the Steelers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you'd expect this to be 0-3 when you go through a stretch like that. But it shows you that Ben is putting this team on his back, really, to get this team through this kind of like rough patch where we just are having problems running the football.
Yeah, and we talked about it a little last week as well, how those short passes are your running game in today's NFL, or can be your running game when executed effectively. And the Bengals game, that was the perfect representation of it. That was they turned to the pass completely. The run was so non-existent that it was like surprising when Connor actually got a handoff to me. It's like, why even try to run it at this point? Because they can't stop the passing game at all. Like, just keep throwing it. Forget it. Just do it. But everybody wants a solution to this. Obviously, if you guys listened to Mike Tomlin's press conference today, he was asked about it by local reporters probably 8 or 9 times in different ways. And by the end, he was like, I feel like we've talked about the running game enough. We're working on it. We need a complete retool of it. We understand the challenge ahead. Yeah, typical Tomlin stuff, addressing it. But he likened it to their defense on third down, that teams were converting third downs on the Steelers like crazy earlier in the year. And then against the Bengals struggled intensely on third down. They were just shut down completely.
Yeah.
So he likened the running game to that, to where, it's something that we understand is a problem, but it's not just let Benny Snell run more, let Anthony McFarland run more. It's not just run up the middle more. There's no one solution to this. It's a total rebuild that they need to do with their running game. So the answer is going to be bits and pieces of everything, and they're going to keep making little adjustments and tweaking it until they find kind of the secret sauce. It's weird to me because earlier in the year we were talking about how they had 100 yards the first 4 or 5 games. They were running the ball extremely well, and it went from extremely well to extremely poor. There was no like average in between. They just fell off a cliff. So I'm not sure what happened, man. And when I watch it, I feel like I see a couple little things. I don't think James Conner is an outside runner, and I don't know why they insist on trying to run him to the outside, but they do.
He can be effective as a one-cut runner, starting inside and then doing that one cut to the outside, because that's when he shows where he usually breaks off big yardage. Some of the times he's just not, to my opinion, I've seen a couple instances where I thought he could have bounced it out on an inside run and had a big yardage, but just didn't.
Yeah.
He just kind of, retook it right back up inside, whereas all you have to do is beat that edge and there's nobody around to the outside. But, everybody can make up speed too in this NFL. So
Exactly.
My eyes may be deceiving me, but kudos also for the offense spreading the ball around yet another game. This time it was Deontay Johnson and Juju Smith-Schuster being the big guys, getting most of the receptions with 6 catches for 116 yards and a touchdown for DJ. And then Smith-Schuster getting 9 catches, 77 yards and a touchdown. And then another player here also getting double-digit targets, Chase Claypool, 4 receptions and 2 big touchdowns. So Ben's spreading the wealth. Ben's still hitting Eric Ebron on big plays, James Washington on big plays, even Connor and Ray McLeod both had multiple receptions, 2 for 2. All 3 of those guys, James Washington, James Conner, Ray McLeod, were had 2 catches on both targets that they were targeted. So great job
Reliable.
for those guys filling in and making plays when they're needed to.
Exactly, man. Just being reliable targets is all you can ask for when you get down to that, 5th, 6th, 7th target share on the team. I mean, that's all you want from those guys. It was interesting to watch them work Deontay early. I feel like he had, every catch or almost all 6 of his catches in the first half. He was just unstoppable early, and then they totally shifted the script in the second half. It's amazing to watch that team go through their options and see no drop-off. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Juju or Deontay or Claypool or James or Ebron for that matter. They're all equally lethal, and it's becoming super obvious that defenses cannot stop that when they're spreading the ball around, because it's totally pick your poison kind of deal. You can say, Deontay needs less or Juju needs more or James needs more, but really the answer is whatever works on game day is what needs to happen, and it's working on game day. So there's no formula. There's nobody who needs more or less. It's just a matter of feel from Ben, and he's feeling it out perfectly so far.
Yeah. And the Steelers, 8th in red zone offense now this season, 68%, up from last in the league last year at 35%.
Wonder why, Stryker. What's the difference? I don't know. Is there something different this year?
It could be a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback.
Maybe.
I don't know. It could be anything. Probably play calling. It's got to be play calling. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
But now at least they went for 6 for 16 on third down this past game. Whereas we talked about Steelers are now improving their third down defense, 0 for 13. I know Alex Kozora over on Steeler Depot just threw up some nice footage. If you guys go over there and check out what he did, showing on how Minkah Fitzpatrick was coming down and bracketing Higgins on third downs as being a big part for the success that the Steelers had, because that's Joe's number one option and his security blanket. Looks like he's looking to Higgins. They both came in the league the same year. So looking over to his guy and seeing him bracketed, not even being open on third down was one of the big reasons and one of the big defensive shift changes for the Steelers being so successful now, with a negative that is now a positive for this team. Hopefully the running game will get turned around again. Penalty-wise, we both had 6 penalties. Nothing big there. 2 turnovers, so +2 in the turnover ratio. And Steelers had a minute more possession. Not really that big of a deal, 30.5 as opposed to 29.5. But really, they weren't trying to possess the ball. They were just scoring. It wasn't that big of a deal. But taking it to the defensive side, sack-wise, Watt with 2, Dupree with 1, Spillane with 1, 6 total tackles for losses, and Watt had 2 of them.
Yeah, not bad. He's still decent at football upon my last viewing. So that's good to see that TJ hasn't fallen off the earth.
Yeah. So now the Steelers are still second all-time, 1 sack in 66 straight games. 69 is the record, so 3 more to catch that Tampa Bay team that happened to have a certain coach coaching their defensive backs, Mr. Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, I can't see them not getting that record, man. If there's a betting line on that, I would bet that they get it all day. It's unfathomable that defense will not get a sack in a full game eventually. They will get you eventually.
They will, but that's just been the identity of this defense over the past 3 years.
Right.
I mean, before we started getting these really good edge sackers, we were kind of getting sacks from everywhere. We'd still be leading in the league in sacks, and I think Cam Hayward was like the top sack getter like some of those years, just because we didn't have those big edge rushers settled in yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool to watch the team kind of embrace this in that they don't care. It's exactly what we just talked about with the wide receivers, and the defense is the same way. They don't care who's getting the sacks or who's getting the interceptions or statistics. It's very clear watching this team that they are a unit and they're all hyped for each other and the team's success. It's awesome to see, man. And I saw on Twitter that actually they introduced the team as a team this year, that they don't do individual player introductions, which I didn't know. I just learned that last week. What more do you want from your football team? And this is their 9-0, and they're like a team. For as much as we want to talk about stepping out of the shell of AB, the diva, and Le'Veon Bell, the diva, and all that, what could more clearly say that than this 2020 Steelers team? It's very clear that they're a different group, and they're all hyped for each other. And, hey, shocker, they're 9-0 as a result.
And you and I talked about that week 1 and in the preseason, stating that we really liked the ability for the Steelers over a lot of other teams with their consistency, both in their front office and in their coaching staff over the years to be able to weather this type of storm. I mean, this is something that Tomlin is built for. He's a no-nonsense guy. He tells it like it is. He doesn't make up stories. He doesn't try to motivate you with narrative. This guy is just strictly like, this is your job. This is how you do it. Go out and execute.
Yep.
You know, we all got to deal with COVID. This is the way it is. Oh, woe is us. We have take our bye week at week 4. And he's like, whatever, this is the way it is. We expected it. We're just fortunate to be playing football, and we are. And we're fortunate to be 9-0 at this point.
Oh, dude, you're always fortunate to be 9-0 in the National Football League.
Yeah.
But building on the Le'Veon Bell and AB comment, Robert on Facebook dropped a little note for us I found was pretty hilarious. He said, how great would it be to beat Bell and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship and then AB in the Super Bowl? He said, LOL, just joking, the Bucks suck. Dude, I don't agree with – I think the Bucks are pretty good, but I agree. My question is Le'Veon Bell actually on the Chiefs? I don't know. He's done nothing for them. So
yeah, and it seems like he's actually lost his spot too because he started off as backup, and I just read that even when they were giving their rookie a rest the last game, they had another running back coming up taking the snaps as opposed to Bell. So Bell has kind of been like pigeonholed as maybe like a third down option or maybe as a like a hurry up, run and shoot, like 2-minute drill option. That honestly, that fits his playing style. You want a diverse running back that is like, he's an amazing blocker as a running back. He was perfect for us in that role. And also to have that ability to be an excellent pass catcher out of the backfield, giving Mahomes another excellent option in 2-minute drill or end of game scenarios. Like, that's where I think they're going to work him in. Yeah, he is getting kind of limited more and more and more, and I don't know if he's going to start getting more and more disgruntled.
Right.
AB also having some chinks in the armor, where another report came out about him smashing some stuff this week. Turned out being like a security camera, and I mean, it's you always hear every contrite athlete coming back from a problem, off-field problem. Oh, I found religion. Oh, I'm going to be better. I remember Mike Tyson when he found a different religion when he came out of jail, and that lasted like a week before he started biting ears off again. Yeah. And so it's just like some guys just don't change. I mean, life is change, but some guys just never change. And this might be an instance where Antonio Brown, it doesn't seem to be changing for the better, at least.
Nah, it's tough, man. And the Bucks, to their credit, said they were aware of this last incident before they signed him. So it doesn't look like it's going to be an issue unless the league finds him at fault or something like that. But sounds like Brady just wanted AB on his team at any cost. And dude, to AB's credit, he's kind of low-key balling out again already. Had like 7 catches for 70 yards.
Yeah.
I saw an easy touchdown that Brady overthrew him on. So we're talking about a totally different stat line if he connects on that deep bomb. But it doesn't look like he lost a step, which is a problem for defenses.
Well, at least our defense is more built to handle somebody like that. I mean, kudos to the secondary. Terrell Edmonds led the team with 8 total tackles. Minka had 6. You had Joe Hayden with 4 tackles and 3 passes defensed. 3. I mean, that's a big number. You usually see like 1 or 2. Steven Nelson also with a PD and a fumble recovery. And as we talked about, Cameron Sutton, his 3rd game in a row, getting a freaking fumble, forcing a fumble. That is just insane. And Coach Tomlin mentioned it today in the presser, just stating out on that not only is he really proud of that accomplishment of somebody being able to create a splash play like that in 3 straight games, but doing so in limited snaps. Yeah. And that is important. And that shows the rest of the team, hey, I'm on the field more than that. Why aren't I doing that? And maybe it causes a little bit of internal competition within the team to hopefully force a couple more turnovers. But at least what I saw out of the secondary, I just absolutely loved how that team played this past game. And we've shown this too. We've been talking about this just about every week too, Hunter. And it's Steelers are going to let up. It seems one receiver is going to get good numbers every week. And Steelers have shown that you're not going to lose a game to one receiver. You're just not. I mean, you of course play them in certain situations where you double and triple and bracket, so you don't get into trouble. But if they're making plays on 1st and 2nd downs, hey, hats off to them. They found the play and they made it. Yep. So great job to them. And that's all you can say is just like, hey, great job. And hopefully we can go back and fix it next down or next series and learn from it. But I was really happy with the performance that they've had over these past couple games, and very happy for my boy Barry punting, still killing it, nearly 50
really
yards,
is.
62 long punt. I mean, this is a new punter. Like, this is the best Barry we have ever seen. And I was surprised that one even bounced into the end zone. I thought that was going to be one of his good old Aussie rolls and just like turn around, flip around backwards and just stick there in the 4. But, still an excellent game. I get geeked on special teams. I played a lot of special teams because I'm built like a punter. But that's just the way I came through high school playing football, and I really respect the guys that do that and do that well. Boswell as well being perfect that game. So
Boswell looked great as usual. I like Barry, man. I like Barry as kind of a redemption story in a way because he was always so boom or bust, but it seems like he's added a level of consistency to his game now upon coming back. So maybe he did take that time off to heart. Maybe that was kind of a wake-up call for him, like this can all end in a second. So it's nice to see him come back better, because that tells me that he cares, he's invested, and he's committed to making improvements instead of just cashing a paycheck, which is how a lot of people thought he was kind of treating his job towards the end there before he got cut. So it's nice to see that he comes back and actually starts performing better, not just for the team, but for him personally. I feel like it's a strong sign of his personal growth. So that's cool to see.
Game balls, Hunter, offense. Who do you have for your game ball this week?
I mean, it's gotta be Ben, but I feel like you want Ben, so
it don't matter. You can take whoever you want. I always have a backup.
I'll give it to Deontay and put in a good word with Total Sports Enterprises.
Yeah.
Since he's my game ball, maybe I'll get the jersey.
Yeah. Good luck. Fingers crossed. This isn't rigged, guys.
Yeah.
Go to Total Sports Enterprises, retweet that, try to win that Deontay Johnson signed jersey. But yeah, for me, obviously, Big Ben, story of the day. The rushing attack was non-existent. He had to do it with his arm, and he did it perfectly with his arm. Other than that one that you were saying, it could have been a pick 6, but still, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, hitting everybody, utilizing everybody, and he even came out and stated, I'm not looking to force the ball at all on this team. I am going to go out and throw to whoever is open. And that is a different Big Ben, who's always had those receivers with Ward before him and then Antonio Brown. Give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. I mean, Ward probably didn't say it as much, but definitely Antonio Brown. But Ward was the elder statesman, an excellent receiver. I'm sure he knew how to coerce Ben to look his way on certain plays. But with Antonio Brown, we always knew that was going to be him just like, please give me the ball. And if I don't give it to me, I might throw a Gatorade cooler across the field.
Yeah. He did catch most of them that got thrown his way, in fairness.
Yeah, that's true.
It wasn't like that was a bad option,
Yes. So defensively, who would be your defensive game ball?
I'm giving this one to Joe Hayden, man. You mentioned the three passes defended, but not just that he defended 3 passes. It was when he did, on third down, tough third downs. He was making huge breakups that just kind of flipped the field. So
I think all 3 of those PDs were on third downs, like you're saying.
Yeah, I remembered at least 2 of them were, but if the third was as well, that's even better. So yeah, Joe Hayden for me.
Perfectly called. And I'm going a little differently the way I do defensive calls, and this time I'm giving it to the entire secondary. Everybody on the secondary was making plays. Edmonds was all over the place tackling. You had Fitzpatrick making plays down the field. I actually have a play I'm going to show you on Minka in a second. Nelson making plays, recovering a fumble, defending a pass, Sutton forcing a fumble. I mean, this just as a unit holding that team to no conversions on third down, and most of them were third and long. I mean, that is the biggest compliment that you can have to a secondary. And the sacks mostly being covered sacks as well, it seemed like to me. They were like longer, holding the ball a little bit more. We got in there quick on the one, but the other ones were a little slower on those other 3. But it was the secondary doing their job, man, and that was what I really loved watching.
Very true, and I want to shout out Anthony. As always, Facebook. Anthony, thanks for joining us, man. He just chimed in and said Tyson looked great upon coming back as well, and that's a good point. Maybe we didn't give him the game ball, but his impact on the running game was obvious, as we had hoped and expected. Tyson looks like his knee is fully healthy now, so that's cool to see him back in the fold and crushing it again.
Yeah. And going to the film here, I just guys want to show you something something quickly on this film. When you're on Facebook, if you guys on Twitter, you can watch it later on our YouTube page. That's youtube.com/C/Steeler Nation. So on this play, we recognize this. This was the biggest play that the Bengals had against us this game. We know it was a defensive breakdown. That was it's just a complete bonehead play defensively, but there was a positive that occurred on this play that I want to really highlight, and it was by Minkah Fitzpatrick, who was playing deep safety. And you see there's nobody in the backfield except for Joe Hayden, so all 5 eligible receivers on the line of scrimmage, and for some reason we went cover 1. And I don't know how the hell that happened, because the guys should have dropped back and people should at least follow the seam ball. But as I will play this through, he will throw down the field, and you will see I will slow this down, and I will zoom in a bit. It's a nice, long, deep pass down the field, and here comes Minkah Fitzpatrick. And what's going on here? Here comes a stiff arm, like we're used to seeing, but no, he slaps it down, bam! Wraps him up and throws him to the ground. So many times on those deep balls, when I was watching the older safety play of Mitchell, unfortunately in his last 2 years, when I called him no-play Mitchell, he was getting face robbed every time trying to make a play downfield, just because he'd go for the tackle or try to make a play, and somebody's just like, no thanks. And not even hard stiff arms. But to see that stiff arm come out on that play, get whacked down as it's coming back, and then completely grabbing the guy was just at least a fun thing for me to take from a play that was such a negative for the Steelers on that day.
He was all over it. It's actually fun. I didn't notice that. It was cool to see it in slow motion. I mean, it's like he was clearly waiting on that stiff arm and ready to combat it. So that was funny to see. Great play from Minkah. Like you said, he played extremely well. The whole secondary played extremely well. So, and that's including, Sutton and Justin Lane and some of the rotational guys that got in and saw some action. Man, they're all stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, they are. They are. And fortunate too. Kudos to the special teams too for fixing the punt kick errors. We can talk about that a little bit later on too. I know we got some questions on that coming up, but COVID-wide, moving forward into to this week, we still have 2 guys on the COVID list, and that would be Vance McDonald, who has the option of being called off of the list, I think, on Wednesday. And if not, it would be Thursday at the latest when he can come off of that list. Other person being on that list is going to be Kevin Dotson, and they put him on Saturday, so he's going to miss the next 2 games.
Yeah.
The bonus for that means I think he's eligible on the Monday after our next game, right? So after the next Sunday, yes, he'd be able to come in and play. So possibly being able to be active for the Ravens game for Thanksgiving. So that would be a bonus to get him back for that depth for the Ravens game.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And good job for the Steelers. They deep cleaned the entire UPMC practice facility. COVID cases are going up nationally. If you've noticed in the league, I just got a tweet earlier today. COVID cases this past week, 18% of all players' cases occurred last week for COVID-19. So
that's wild.
Big deal. Wearing the mask. Steelers doing the right job, cleaning the facilities, trying to reset because they've had a COVID scare. Kudos also to keeping Anthony McFarland off of the team and away from the team this entire week when he had an illness that was not COVID positive, but we're just going through the motions of, hey, maybe it's better off to let these guys stay at home for 72 hours, work through these colds or flus, because on the off chance if it is COVID, then you got another 5 guys that got to spend a whole week not practicing. It's kind of a bitch that happened last week, but fortunately Steelers had good veterans, Vince Williams, Ben Roethlisberger, that can miss that kind of time and not miss a beat during the game. They're kind of built for it.
Maybe even be better, as Ben said. He kind of liked not having to throw passes in practice and felt super fresh on game day. So that's fun, man. That's a fun little – it's funny that he's as old as, some of the assistant coaches and stuff. Like, he's been around. Yeah. So, hey, man, if it helps him throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns and no picks, I'm all for it.
They put that stat on the game last week. It's like, Ben Roethlisberger throwing to Chase Claypool, who was 6 years old when Ben made his first start. I'm like, oh man.
It is hilarious to think of. Like I remember last year talking to Benny Snell in rookie camp. He just kept saying how excited he was to, catch a pass from Roethlisberger or get a handoff from Roethlisberger. Because and then you look at the tape and it's like, dude, Benny was 20 years old when he was drafted. So yeah, he literally grew up watching. Like, Ben Roethlisberger is the only Steelers quarterback that he ever really knew.
Yeah.
So, like, how
Yeah.
crazy is that for some of these young guys, the way it is with them? It's got to be so cool.
Yeah. And the Steelers are going to continue with their COVID protocol a little bit more intensively this week, just like they did last week, only meeting on site for drills and walkthroughs and, of course, practice itself. All meetings, all, positional meetings, defensive, offensive meetings, and film studies, all going to be done from home this week.
Yeah.
So that helps to keep numbers down. Steelers are doing it as well as they can, and I don't know of any other teams that are taking it as seriously as the Steelers are. But with this protocol in place now for 2 straight weeks, it's pretty impressive, and it's giving Steeler fans at least hope that we can see this undefeated season continue as long as possible.
Be a shame for it to end because of COVID or something silly, guys held out and the team's just not the same coming back from it. But like you said, so far so good, man. They're clearly doing things by the book. It was kind of, Mike Tomlin said that I think last week, maybe the week before, that there's just clear protocol laid out for this and they're just following it to a T. So it's all you can ask for of them. They're not trying to get fancy or overthink it. They're literally just doing exactly what the guidelines say will produce the best results, but they're just being very diligent about it.
And John, we'll be getting to your question in a second. That's a great question. And we'll got questions from Steeler Nation coming up in about 5 minutes, and I'll be coming to yours first.
Nice.
So injury-wise with the Steelers, we got good word. Chris Wormley is going to be coming back off of injured reserve this week. It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be activated. They now have a 3-week window to activate him and roster him. If they don't roster him within that 3-week window, then they lose him to injury reserve for the rest of the year, which is kind of what happened with Stefan Wisniewski. It's why we kind of had to sign him for a day and then drop him off the team because he physically wasn't ready to come back. He had to have a setback with his injury, and hopefully can rehab on his own and come back and join the team later when he's ready. But good news for Wormley, getting him back. That's big because that's depth that we went out and traded for. So hopefully he can come in and help out with the young guys still doing well too, like Mondu, Isaiah Buggs, Carlos Davis getting quality snaps now. So it's nice to see that across the board. Mike Hilton's supposed to be coming back this week. Isaiah Buggs probably going to be practicing a bit more. I know he's been on the limited phase here lately, but hopefully he makes his way back. Anthony McFarland hopefully will be coming back from this illness. We'll see how serious that was, and hopefully it's non-COVID related. And then the last two were Trey Edmonds and Jalen Samuels got banged up in the game. Hamstring for Trey, quad for Jalen. We'll have to see how they practice and if they're going to be held out a little bit early on in the week.
Yeah, I mean, once again, pretty good injury news for the most part. They've avoided any major setbacks or anything of that nature. Like you said, Wormley nearing a return is good. It's funny now that Alulu's back, but it was funny that Wormley actually ended up being a guy that they really could have used these past couple of weeks. You would hope that wouldn't have been the case, but that's just how it worked out. Now, Hilton obviously coming back as well is good for the team. We couldn't say enough about his work rushing the passer and stopping the run, just all the little things Mike Hilton does. So that'll be exciting to have him back in the fold. Yeah. All in all, man, no reasons to not go 10-0 in my opinion.
Truth. Pittsburgh versus Jacksonville coming up this weekend, guys. There's a good chance of going 10-0. I mean, obviously the Steelers sound like they've stopped taking lower quality opponents or lower record value opponents as less as they would a better opponent. But this time we'll have to see what they do. I just got a phone call. That's why I'm a little flustered right now. I know they have a great running back in Robinson. How are they looking at quarterback here, Hunter?
Brutal, man. Even, Gardner Minshew was not that good. He's injured. He's not going to be playing. So I don't think he would have been a huge challenge, but he certainly would be an upgrade over this Jake Luton. I'm sorry if I don't know how to say his name, but he didn't look great against the Packers from what I saw. Definitely missed a lot of throws, but he has a lot of talent around him, which is what's scary. Like you said, James Robinson looks great. Awesome running back.
Good running back. He's a rookie this year too, right? Undrafted?
Undrafted rookie. Wow. The most yardage for an undrafted rookie to this point in their career in NFL history. So he's literally the best undrafted rookie running back in NFL history to this point, which is pretty cool for him to say. He's not just having a good year for an undrafted rookie either. He's having a good year by any standard. He's 5th in the league in rushing yards for context. So the dude is just playing extremely well. And if you guys play fantasy football, I'm sure you already know James Robinson. He's like the waiver wire angel, savior of the year. So they got him, but what's I won't say scares me, but what puts me on edge a little bit even more than James Robinson is their trio of receivers. They got Chenault, the rookie, looks very good. Keelan Cole had kind of a career game last game against the Packers. And then DJ Chark is very good. I have a lot of respect for his game and what he can do as well. So they've got
DJ Chark, DJ Chark.
He did it. He did it.
DJ Chark.
Can't believe he did it.
I did. That's my favorite personal joke. If I had Berman's job and I was doing
dude, that's
football highlights. Sure. I mean, I cannot think anything but the shark dance having a kid.
It works super perfectly, man. But yeah, I mean, he's another great young receiver. So they have a super young, talented receiving core that reminds me of, I think back to when we were talking to Joe Thomas and when he mentioned trouble dealing with, 3 B, C+, B- receivers versus 1A and a bunch of Ds. This Jaguars receiving core is very much 3 good, maybe not great, but 3 good with upside receivers. That can be a problem for a lot of teams. And, they can do some good stuff. So if the quarterback can figure his game out, then it could be a totally different game. As it stands, actually, if you look at team stats as far as passing yards per game and rushing yards per game, the Steelers and Jags compare extremely favorably. They're super close to one another in both categories, but the big difference is the Steelers at 30.1 points per game, and the Jags are all the way down at 22 points per game. So turning the yardage into points, and it's no coincidence the Jaguars have a negative turnover differential on the year. So that pretty much explain it right there. Whereas the Steelers are second in the league with a +9 behind only the Titans who have a +10. So taking care of the ball, Jags not doing a great job of that. That could be the difference. But it's funny, man, because you see 1-8 and you think, this is an easy blowout for the Steelers. They're really not that bad, man. Like, they have some talented players. If it comes together, it just has not gelled yet. And obviously the quarterback's holding them back right now, big time. So there's that. It's not a layup game, man. I think they're better than the Cowboys. I'll say that. Like, I genuinely think this is a more talented team than the Cowboys are fielding lately. So
wow,
I don't think it's a layup, but I do think it's 10-0.
Yeah. And at least this isn't the same kind of defense we're used to seeing when we were playing Jacksonville and having so much trouble with Jacksonville in the past. Ramsey's not there anymore. Their big middle linebackers aren't there anymore. So it's kind of a different team, but still quality players and NFL caliber professionals playing that game.
It was what Mike Tomlin in the press conference said today. He's like, it's not like we're a Big Ten team going to play a MAC team. It's NFL team versus NFL team. There's no guarantees. There's a reason the Steelers have never started 9-0 before, because it's incredibly hard to do in the NFL. So now they're 9-0, looking for 10-0. The Jaguars, despite that 1-8 record, are not a layup, man. They got to if they shut Robinson down early and force them to pass and really put some heat on this Luton. And actually, they could turn to Mike Glennon as well as behind him. They haven't decided on who's actually going to start. And Steelers fans undoubtedly remember Mike Glennon from 2014 with the Buccaneers upsetting the Steelers. And maybe might have been his first career start. He wasn't a starter either. And he threw for like 300 yards and tore him up. So the Steelers maybe are hoping not to see Glennon again.
Yeah, I know. Fingers crossed. And now it's time for the podcast. Questions from Steeler Nation. You can either log on at SteelerNation.com in the forum and create your own free profile to answer questions that I ask for each week, or right here on Twitter, right here on Facebook Live during the podcast, and we will take them. First one we're going to be taking right here from Twitter to John K. Nippin1. Do the Steelers have a decent chance to beat the Chiefs, or are we hoping that they lose before the AFC game? And at least for me to start, yes, they have a good chance of beating the Chiefs. 2 ways. One, I'm not sold on the Chiefs defense being able to stop our team from scoring. And 2, we have one of the few defenses that I think that could give Mahomes some problems. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be an easy win. I'm not saying it's going to be a sure thing. I think it would make for the most epic AFC championship game possible, because honestly, I don't see these two teams playing unless it's in the AFC championship game.
Yeah, I agree on every level. I think to his question specifically, the answer is simply yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they have a good chance of beating them, but also, yes, I hope It doesn't come to that. That's the one team that the Steelers would not want to see. If they get eliminated before the AFC Championship, that would be great for the Steelers, in my opinion, assuming the Steelers themselves make it there, which I think we both feel they should this year. But it's exactly what you said. The great equalizer to any great quarterback throughout history is to put them on their back, to pressure them. You look at Tom Brady with their infamous 18-1 season. What the Giants did to that Super Bowl that changed everything was rush the crap out of him with just their 4-down linemen. So no quarterback is good on their back, and that's kind of the thing. Now, Mahomes is infinitely more escapable than Tom Brady, more mobile than Tom Brady ever was. But they can still flush him out, maybe make his life a little miserable. However, Mahomes is arguably more dangerous when he gets flushed out. So it's a very delicate situation and a tough problem for defenses, as you've seen. But I mean, the Raiders beat them earlier this year. Now, granted, it was a 40-32 shootout. So I think that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Not sold on the Chiefs defense, and the Steelers would have to just simply win a shootout because you're not going to completely stop that Chiefs offense.
And Carolina Panthers nearly beat them earlier this year too.
Very
so
true.
I mean, but we can say conversely, Denver Broncos nearly beat us. So we had a tough
Cowboys.
time. And Cowboys nearly beat us. I mean, we had some tough times with some teams that aren't that great as well. It's a progression with the season, but still, I like the makeup of this team, and I like the way that this team finds a way to win differently each week and makes plays no matter who it is. There's just no excuses. I love the makeup of this team, actually more so than probably the makeup of any other team I've ever viewed. Nice. And I'm talking about, I've been watching the team since the 70s. So this is pretty interesting stuff right now.
Big words.
Yeah. So Hoot asks us, after the cause to fire Danny Smith last week, does he get credit for special teams explosion this week? And I'd say yes. No problem, John. Yes. And a small, quick answer. Yes. The big problem was them shooting the A gap on the field goal and the extra point kicks. They tried doing it again this past game, and I watched it because I specifically, I actually got excited. We scored a touchdown. I'm like, okay, let's see what we did on the extra point here.
Right.
Let's see what we're doing. And they did a much better job of closing that gap, rising together, and making sure that those gaps didn't get jumped that game. So that was a big, big plus. And the biggest thing that needed fixed. But everything else, I mean, we've known that the coverage team does a great job. We've known the punting game has been doing a great job. We know my cat wants to get here and talk about her favorite team, the Bengals.
I like that. I like.
She's a Bengals fan. This is the worst part. I got a brown dog that likes the Browns, and then I got a cat that, of course, is striped and she likes the Bengals. So
you got to get a pet raven next, I guess.
I know. I was telling my wife, we got a bird to be a Ravens fan.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny, man. I mean, to the question, Danny Smith's off the hook for this week, but this is Pittsburgh, man. You know it as well as anybody. The next gaffe they have, they'll be calling for his job again. It's not a get out of jail free card. It's just a, get out of jail for one night card until you mess up again. Then you're going right back in. Yeah.
And we've got K. Stilly and Steel Chip wanting to know about how do the Steelers fix this pass or this offensive rushing attack? Was Dotson playing better for DeCastro? Would Pouncey having a problem? I mean, what's the biggest issue? Is it personnel? To me, I don't think it's as much personnel because it can't really be. I've been giving DeCastro a little bit of harshness too on the forum. I like the way that Dotson blocks, and he really is puts power behind him when he blocks. But DeCastro can do the same damn thing. And, running left seems to be more of a problem, along with, the Villanueva and Filer's side of the play. It seems like everybody's just busting those gaps. Not having Vince Williams was a part, or not, Vance McDonald was an issue too, with the blocking for that past game. So for me, it's coming down with technique has to improve a little bit, and the way that they want it to attack, hopefully doing some more inside the tackles, inside the guard running plays, some more downhill stuff, which worked in the first 3-4 games of the season. But conversely, the other teams are blitzing the hell out of us on running downs. I mean, they're bailing out kind of like what we do as a team when we face a running team. We blitz both A gaps, and we end up hitting people in the backfield. Sure. Looks like you're calling your play there in Super Techno Bowl.
Yeah. I have a hard time overreacting to the problem because it's we're broken record on this, but that the short passing game can act as a running game, and it's been incredibly efficient for this team and arguably the better option anyway. Maybe this is just the year that the Steelers don't need to run the ball 25 times a game to win, and that's totally fine. If they keep winning, then what's really the problem? I mean, I don't see a problem with the alternative, which is let Ben turn it loose, hit some short passes, spread it around. It's working. They're 9-0 because of that. So as much as, you'd love to have a great running game, and I do think that could become a problem, especially in the playoffs as guys, get a little more tired, a little more worn down. Right now, I'm not super concerned because they have plenty of time to figure it out. And I don't think it needs to be anything dramatic. I think they just need to get back to basics, kind of like Tomlin said at his press conference today, retool some things, restructure some things, focus on that, make that an emphasis, an area of concern and improvement. And I think we'll see that.
Cooley Man asks us, do the Steelers have a true number one wide receiver? I'll let you field this one first.
Wow, that's a great question. No, I don't think they do, man, and I don't think they care. It's exactly what we said earlier in this show is that they don't really care who's catching the passes. I think Deontay, Juju, and Claypool, especially Claypool, gazing into my crystal ball and evaluating his future, I think those three guys all have number one receiver talent and capability. But I think within this offense, they will never be AB catching 120 passes for 1,500 yards in a season. The offense is just not structured to allow or facilitate something like that. So I don't think that any of those guys are number one receivers as we've traditionally seen it, but I do think that they are number one receiver level talents.
To me, yeah, I agree with that completely. I absolutely think that in their own systems, if they were on their own team, I could see Juju, DJ, and Claypool being that team's number one receiver. On this team, I think good old Joe Thomas said it best back when we were talking to him, the old tackle there for the Cleveland Browns when we had him on the show Cleveland Week. He said it's much tougher to stop a team with a lot of B receivers than to stop a team with one A receiver.
Yeah.
And problem is now, I take that to heart. I agree with him completely, but I think honestly, the Steelers have 3A receivers.
Yeah, I would have a problem.
And that's even tougher than stopping the team with all B receivers.
Exactly. I have trouble calling those guys B receivers for sure.
Exactly.
When you see what they can do.
Exactly. So we've got Mad Insomniac.
Ooh.
Asking an interesting question here. Why don't teams use a running back at holder for kicks? You'd think that with no one lining up over the center in kicking rules, that threat of having a real runner back there could put the D on its heels.
Dude, I've literally never thought of this, and it's freaking hilarious. I have no idea, dude. That's an amazing idea, though, and I love it.
I've never thought of it either. I know.
I got nothing.
From experience on special teams, the people that play special teams are your backup quarterbacks that don't get in the game and your punters. They're the ones that hold snaps just because they're the ones that you got to take snaps away from other aspects of the game to come out and work with the kicking team the entire time. So that means one of your running backs isn't going to be used in the game as much because in the offseason, you had him back there holding kicks.
Yeah.
So it's possible if you had a young kicker or a young running back to come back and start holding kicks and stuff, yeah, you could do it that way. But once they get better, they've got to be on the offensive side and not hang out with the special teams anymore.
Right.
So that's why it's normally a backup quarterback or a punter that gets those jobs. So, but it's a great thing to think about. I'm the same way with you, Hunter. That's great thing to think about there, Mad Insomniac, because that's something I'd never thought about.
That is super funny, man. I love that idea. I would also imagine that like the backup quarterback types and punters just simply have more experience holding coming into the league, so they don't need to learn a new skill. A running back would have to learn that from the ground up at this point. I'm sure running backs haven't held many kicks in their life, so I don't know. But I love the idea, man. I love where your head's at.
Another good question from Mad Insomniac. Yeah. Hot take.
Power. Apparently, I thought you meant that was one. Never mind. Go for it.
No. Here's his hot take. Cowher or Tomlin, who is better?
Oh, Tomlin. Not even close.
Wow, there you go. That was a quick one. Wow, I did not expect such a quick answer out of you. Now, why would you say Tomlin is better?
Because Cowher inherited Knowles players, bro. No, man. Obviously messing with you on that one.
Yes.
But,
sure.
Well.
That's an inside joke, answers. We're not saying, because that's always the big rip on Tomlin early in his career was he inherited Cowers players.
Yeah,
And
the honest answer is simply that I'm biased, and for most of my adult life, I've known Tomlin's teams and really followed the team and the dealings and seen what Tomlin can do. But the bigger reason than that is last year was the season for me that just showed exactly what Mike Tomlin could do. Even in missing the playoffs, simply finishing 8-8 was a remarkable achievement for them. And hearing Joe Hayden and Eric Ebron and Chase Claypool, all these guys that had Ike Taylor, Ryan Clark, you could just keep going. All these guys who had been coached by Tomlin and what they have to say about him, man, I don't take that stuff lightly because players don't have to compliment their coach the way they do. You know, there's no brownie points in the NFL. If you're good, you're playing. It doesn't matter if you're talking nice about the coach. So they're coming out saying, Joe Hayden said that Tomlin's the best coach that he's ever had at any level.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
And you hear that from a ton of guys. So.
And that's a guy that's had 30 coaches in Cleveland. So that's a big.
Exactly.
So, okay, go ahead. Finish off.
No, that's all I was going to say. Just accounting for what I've seen Tomlin do myself that I've really followed and adding in the player testimonials, if you will, for me, it seems pretty clear cut.
Now, my take on this is slightly different. And I will say that Cowher and Tomlin were both the right coaches for their time of football.
I like that too. I totally get that. Cowher a little tougher, more hard-nosed.
He was a more emotional guy. Players coach as well, but he was all into hard-nosed football, hard-nosed defense, hard-nosed rushing attack, which really wouldn't work nowadays. And kudos to that line of style. It was very successful for us back then. Now you have Tomlin, who is perfect for this generation. We've got the younger kids growing up that need a father figure that's a strong father figure. And that's the biggest thing, that he's kind of like creating men, essentially. It's something that college coaches do when they have players for 4 years. That was something that Joe Paterno always prided himself on, was, creating men out of boys. And that is people coming to the league, learning their job, learning the structure, always knowing where you're sitting, even being able to corral these insane personalities with Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown, who have shown they could not do it anywhere else but in Pittsburgh with that type of players coach, and a figure that he's also trying to get better every year. He indents himself almost every year. He's known as a defensive coach, and we've done nothing but set records on offense since he's been here. With our receivers just being insane coming across the board, no matter who we're picking them up or where we get them in the draft. They're successful and they're contributing. I mean, this is just a really interesting to see him this way. And I've always kind of seen him as this generation's Lombardi. And that is in the sense that he's just so damn quotable that years from now, after he retires, you're going to see like pictures of Tomlin on the walls and gyms around the nation, and in coaches' locker rooms and high school and college locker rooms, of just inspirational quotes. The standard is the standard up on the wall. Just he knows how to motivate players by not having to feed into the emotion to motivate them emotionally.
Yeah, and the Le'Veon AB element is something I forgot in my little argument for Tomlin. That's a great point, too. I mean, look how both of them have done after leaving Pittsburgh. It's not like it was just Tomlin either, keeping them there. I'm sure the assistant coaches, the owners, everybody involved probably had a piece in holding them together and keeping everything glued together. But Tomlin obviously was the leader in all that, so he deserves a ton of credit for that, too. But I think your answer is ultimately the right answer. You can't compare cross eras, just like with players. Whenever we try to compare players across eras, it's super hard to do. But, me being biased, I'll take Tomlin in that discussion.
But one interesting aspect, they're 7 wins apart.
Yeah.
And Tomlin can tie Cowher's record a year earlier if he wins out this year. So if he's undefeated, he's probably the best coach. And I'd have to re-switch too and probably say he's probably the best coach. If he can finish off an undefeated season, he might even get it over Noel for me. I mean, that's just something that is insane. And I just think it's impossible to do, is to go undefeated.
Yeah.
And still not sure if we're going to go undefeated. But we'll see. I think I have another question coming up on that. Black and Gold Bleeder wants to know, with Derek Watt out so many games and now still invisible, why do we do this? If we're going to use a fullback at times, a lead blocker, and it's part of our offensive game plans, why don't we have a viable backup, or at least somebody else trained to do the job in the pinch? So we do have backup fullbacks on this team. We actually have two of them. We have Henry Mondu, who came in and showed he can do it, and he can Mondu it. And we also have Trey Edmonds. Problem is right now is you're having a lot of nagging injuries with both Watt and Edmonds that is causing the problems with the ability to get that fullback position rolling on game day. And that happened last year, all year, when Rosie Nix was injured the entire season. So for me, it's more of a health standpoint, why it's not more integral within our offensive attack in the running game. But I see that increasing and getting better as the health improves in these players coming down the stretch.
And the other aspect of that is with Alulu being out, then Mondu was required to play more snaps on defense. So that same deal, he wasn't really available either when they needed him. So, yeah, it's a problem, man. Derek Watt so far has obviously not been what Steelers fans had hoped to see on really any level. He's been okay on special teams. I've seen him definitely making some plays on special teams, but overall not what they paid for or what they hoped for. I don't want to call him a bust, but he is busting at least.
Now we got Drink Iron City, who we always usually end up with here at the end of the show. He always has great questions for us. So thank you, DIC. We're looking forward to answering some of these. So first one he wants to know is our whole team is focused not just on the field, but off the field as well. In a percentage form, how big is the chance that COVID-19 will derail their season through no cause of their own? I'll start off first because, I like taking the health stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd say Steelers are doing everything right now for COVID-19. I don't think that they are going to be the reason why if the season would stop early, that it would be the Steelers' fault. It would be another team's fault. So that would be the way I'd handle that. And I'd say for a percentage for the entire, we're going through a big spike right now. So if we can make it through this spike and still have football in the next 3-4 weeks, we're going to make it through the entire season. So right now, I'd say it's probably a solid 80% that we're going to be able to finish the season.
Yeah, I would go even higher, or however he phrased the question. What percentage chance that it gets derailed? I think super low. 5%.
Well, 80% of the season continues, right. So 20% that it would derail. So you're at 5%. That's great. So 5% for Hunter, 20% for me. I'm just being a pragmatist, going through the biggest portion of COVID for the country that we've had to date.
Well, the biggest reason for me really being that you got to think to derail their whole season, you would have to derail these next – they could maybe lose out and still make the playoffs at this point. Like it would take a big COVID mistake to derail this season for them. It's almost impossible at this point.
Social media has tamed way down since AB is gone. Who currently is the biggest user and has been disruptive or not disruptive within the team? And I'll let you start it because you're our social media guru.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's disruptive, man, to be honest. They all use it, though. You see Juju, Bud Dupree, Juju, Claypool, Steven Nelson, low-key hilarious on social media and actually really inspiring at times, too. The dude has a great mentality. Yeah. But I saw Bud Dupree posted like not a meme, but a jokey post of when he was hitting Joe Burrow, and it looked like he was hugging him. Yeah. And the caption was just like, "I love you" or something like that. Just making a joke about it. And then
that's great.
Then Steven Nelson commented that boy trash or something like that. So that was probably the most disruptive thing that I've seen on social all year. But it's funny because you'll see the Steelers, somebody will post something on social and then like everybody on the team will comment. Just another example of them being a team and just loving each other's stuff and laughing with each other, having some fun, man. It's social media, I think. Yeah. And I'll go back and even defend, AB and the people who were disruptive with social. I never think it's that big of a deal. I think media and fans make it a bigger deal than it actually is.
Yeah. And I will just add that Zach Banner is another great person to follow, even though he's not on the team anymore. Definitely. And Vince Williams, great. I'll be taking that question and one more question. They have great social media as well. Last question from Drink Iron City. Yes or no? Undefeated season?
No.
No. I'll say no too, but here's my caveat. I think Mike Tomlin, if we are 14-0 and we have the 1 seed locked up, he will start resting players and we might drop a game because of it. And that would drive Steeler Nation to go absolutely insane, even though from a coaching perspective, it is the exact right thing to do.
Yeah, No, agreed, and that's exactly why I say no. Oh, well, two reasons. That being the primary reason. The second reason being, as we said, it's an anomaly to even get to 9-0. So simply the odds of just something happen and dropping a game are just high. The odds of going 16-0 and then eventually 19-0 are just incredibly unrealistic. So it's just I just say no for no other reason than that's not a smart bet.
And we've got a question here on Twitter from Ian Sukiya. Who do you think is the most underrated player on our defense?
It probably used to be Vince Williams, but now it's Tyson Alualu, I would say.
Yeah.
People kind of know who Vince is, but now I would definitely go with Alualu.
And I would have said Cam Sutton until his past 3 weeks. Now everybody knows who he is.
That's kind of when I was going through everybody, I'm like, well, kind of everybody knows about everybody now. Like, nobody's underrated anymore. Like, we understand what these guys can do. I could go with Steven Nelson, too, honestly.
Yes, and you can still go with Edmonds as well, just because he's finally starting to put it together, guys. He's really doing well and still not really getting the notoriety that he deserves. So I really like what I'm seeing out of Edmonds because I'm really hard on the safeties. It's a position I used to play as well, and I watched that a lot. And I was really hard on Mitchell. But what Edmonds is doing with Minka, this is like Polamalu Clark stuff we're starting to see now. So and especially since they it took 2 months to get into it and ready, and now they're hitting their stride, and they're going to get even better as this season progresses. So that's something that I just can't wait to see continue on. So do we have any questions then from Facebook?
We do, for sure. So
Excellent.
we got Anthony chiming in with
Anthony!
a really good one. I think you'll like this one.
Okay.
Could this be Ben's MVP season due to the fact that the sacks seem to be down and that the interceptions are dramatically lower than normal? So Ben for MVP, Striker. What do you think?
When you take the term most valuable player, you have to state what they are to that team and how you would project that team being without them. We already know what the team is without him. They're at best an 8-8 team where the top quarterback only got 5 wins.
Right.
So for Ben being undefeated, 9-0, his first game back, I think for me, I think he's more of a lock for comeback player of the year than for MVP. And the issue is, though, like, I don't understand why people are saying, well, Alex Smith, look at what he almost died on the field. He needed 17 surgeries. I'm like, Ben had 3 of his 5 elbow tendons replaced. That is a career ender for anybody else playing quarterback. No, that's never happened before, ever. And for him to come back, be undefeated, have 22 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, still get 0 love for it, plus a continuation, which is unfortunately, Anthony, one of the worst parts of media bias against Ben Roethlisberger. He has never once received a single vote from any writer for MVP to be an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I don't see, Ben being MVP, but, Alex Smith being an 0-3 quarterback and having 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions, and you're calling him comeback player of the year over Ben Roethlisberger, you're fucking high. I fucking can't stand that. And I'm fucking swearing this time. I never fucking swear. And
He's over it.
That's how worked up I am about that.
Striker's had enough.
That's absolute asinine. It's a Mark Caboli. You got to get your vote out there, buddy.
Well,
Bouchette, come on. We need these votes.
I am in on the comeback player of the year discussion. Absolutely. Look, I get Alex Smith. The story is incredible, taking absolutely nothing away from him. But the play on the field there is literally no comparison between what Ben's doing for the Steelers and what Alex Smith is doing for the football team. So, you can't even – and I feel like the way national media is going for it, like you're saying, Ben never getting the respect, it seems like Alex Smith has more momentum to win that award, which is just crazy to me. But
it's insane.
Prepare for that.
Yeah.
But the MVP, the big problem that I'm going to have with that, unless Ben does go 16-0 and he doesn't rest and actually goes 16-0, I feel like you have to give it to him at that point.
Yeah.
But Kyler Murray he's on pace. He's on pace for like 40 touchdown passes and 20 touchdown runs. I mean, he's having a year that, like, if you thought Lamar Jackson last year was special, he's one up in that. So it's going to be hard to beat. And the Cardinals are overachieving a bit from what people expected. So if they sneak into the playoffs or even win their division, which I think they're leading right now, if they win the division and
3-way tie
to do this,
3-way tie with Seattle,
That's nuts.
Rams
and the Rams.
Cardinals 6-3. That's insane. And I've always been I love Kyler Murray. I love Kyler Murray in all the same ways that I hate Lamar Jackson. Yeah. He can throw the football. He is an accurate passer. And when he runs, he is smart about it. He just doesn't bail on the play because it's the only reason why he runs. He sees something down the field, utilizes it against the coverage. And so usually when you're seeing him from 25 yards in, running into the end zone, he's untouched.
Yeah.
He's untouched because he saw the way that the defense lined up, and he knows, like, I'm going to get here and nobody's going to touch me.
Yeah.
He's doing it smart.
And then feel free to throw, Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen are still all in the discussion. I mean, there's going to be a log jam for the MVP discussion. But to your question on Ben in general, I mean, this is, for me, the best season I've ever seen him have, period. Yeah, and I know maybe statistically he's been a little better here and there, marginally. When you factor in the way he's managing the games and winning games, this is his best, man. This is his best performance ever.
And Ian, thanks for correcting me on Twitter. That's right. He's only started one game, though Alex Smith has played in 3 games and got the majority of the snaps in 3 of those games. Ian just wants to know quickly, who's the best team in the NFC in your opinion?
Man, it would have been the Seahawks for an easy call a couple weeks ago, but they're kind of falling off the map a little bit. Like we just talked about, that NFC West cluster in general is a little intimidating. Yeah. I think any one of those 3 teams can be the team on a given day. So I would just I'll punt on the question a little bit and just say one of those NFC West teams for me scare me way more than anybody else.
Mine's still going to be the other black and gold team on the NFC. That's New Orleans. And unfortunately, with that big rib injury to Breeze, I mean, that's going to affect him for a month. It's going to be 4 weeks of him just being an absolute pain for being able to breathe and everything else. I mean, 4 to 6 weeks for that rib injury to heal. And he's going to be wearing a flak jacket the entire rest of the season. So, that's the only downside. Smart, kudos move for them. And this is the biggest thing. Picking up Jameis Winston, that was the guy I wanted. For $1 million to be a backup, a 30 touchdown player. Yeah, he threw 30 interceptions, but man, you don't teach a young quarterback to throw 30 touchdowns. You can get the interceptions out of him. I mean,
dude, he had
less interceptions than Peyton Manning at that point of his career as a rookie or as a young player.
And he got LASIK surgery, which I feel like people do not talk about enough. Like, dude, how is that not a bigger story? It blows my mind. Awesome. It's like, wait. The guy couldn't see? The guy couldn't see this whole time? That seems like a big deal for a quarterback. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah. So next question on Facebook.
Is this TJ Watt's year to win MVP? And I assume you just mean defensive
player of the year. I thought he was robbed last year. I think he just – the interesting thing this year too is usually they look at like one stat that jumps off the page, and that's the guy that they give the MVP to. So somebody gets like 18 sacks, MVP. Somebody gets like 12 interceptions, MVP, like a freaking idiot over there in New England last year. But like his numbers are all over the board: interceptions, forced fumbles recoveries, sacks. I mean, he is just now passes defense. I mean, he's jumping up and making plays at the line of scrimmage like his brother. I mean, this guy is just always, no matter what it is, you don't know what big play it's going to be. TFL, it doesn't matter. It's just going to be, he's going to make 3-4 big plays a game.
Yeah.
And that is what makes the difference to me for a defensive player of the year. Is not a guy that just racks up in stats in one category, but a guy that can find a way to make a big play no matter what, in what situation, and in big situations. That big sack on freaking 4th down last week against that should have been the game ender, but that's neither here nor there. It's still an excellent, huge play. And he does them.
I think we can all agree at this point that once again, he's going to be in the top 3 of the discussion for sure. It's just a matter of who gets the eventual nod, whether that's Aaron Donald or TJ Watt or Myles Garrett, whichever guy it is. There's no doubt that TJ is absolutely in that discussion and deserving of it. But one thing I think is interesting, I just looked up the odds on Defensive Player of the Year. Aaron Donald is leading right now at plus 200. TJ Watt is plus 400. Myles Garrett plus 500, Khalil Mack. But right after Khalil Mack, in 5th and 6th place are both Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, and then Minka is 9th. So the Steelers have 4 players in the top 10 of the odds for winning Defensive Player of the Year. So that's pretty cool. But
and then unfortunately that's going to probably cannibalize the chances of somebody to win it because there's so many good players on this defense. But
it's like the 70s teams in the Hall of Fame, like Donnie Shell taking forever to get to the Hall of Fame. They're like, come on, we gotta draw the line somewhere.
after LC Greenwood, in my opinion. Next question on Facebook.
Yeah, dude. LC's a fantastic. From Ryan Stansberry. Thanks for joining us, Ryan. What's up,
Ryan?
dude? Who do you want to see in the Super Bowl? Us versus who?
I just want to see us in the Super Bowl. That's all I care about is making it. It's us against whoever makes it. That's this year. I think no matter what, I think this is the AFC's year. I don't think the NFC is as good this year. Case in point, the AFC East, which is the AFC, or the NFC East, which is the NFC least. I mean, I think they're still at like maybe 6 total wins in that division. I mean, it's just absolute insane. And I'm an Eagles fan. I like the Eagles. I found myself rooting a little bit for the Giants at the end of that game, just because I'm like, well, I want the division leader to have the worst record ever.
Yeah. So, well, that being a Steelers fan, that's the answer, right? The team that you want to see in the Super Bowl would be whoever wins the NFC East somehow goes on a miracle playoff run and makes it. But I would say I feel like the matchup with the Cardinals is actually a good matchup for the Steelers to win. Yeah. So I would not want to see the Seahawks, and I would not want to see the Rams, because the Rams' defensive front can make things just too dangerous.
I'm not afraid of the Seahawks anymore. Their defense is atrocious this year.
It is.
That's why they're losing. Like, they were letting up 30 points a game back when they were winning their first 5-6 games.
It is atrocious.
They're horrible. So I'm not afraid of their defense at all.
I just don't want to get in a shootout versus Russell Wilson. That's just the level of respect I have with Russell Wilson. You know, I just can't count that guy out with his experience and everything. I wouldn't mind seeing the Packers. How about a little revenge for the last Super Bowl appearance? I like that.
That would be nice.
I like that narrative, because I think the Steelers would stomp them this time.
Nice. Is that all the questions on Facebook?
That's what we got.
Awesome. Thank you, Facebook. Thank you, Twitter. Thank you, Steeler Nation, for making this fun as hell, because we love asking questions and answering questions. And, you know, you never know how it's going to shake out, but I hope if we just keep on winning, that's all that matters. And right now, we're the only team in the league and the only fan base in the league that can say, we're undefeated, Steeler Nation.
Feels good, man. Feels good.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming, as always, Hunter. Guys, got to follow Hunter on Twitter, on Instagram, Strong Game on both social media sites, at Hunter A. Homistek. That's at HunterAHomistek. We'll see you next week, 2:00, right here on Twitter Live, right here on Facebook Live. You call us out here. You have a great week, man, and I'll be talking to you soon. I know we're texting back and forth during games anyway.
Hell yeah, let's do it, man. We'll see you next week. Thanks for all the questions again, guys. It was an awesome time as always. Let's go 10-0 next week when we come here. It'll be a good feeling.
Awesome. Here we go.
Later, guys.
Later, man. Visit our title sponsor, Total Sports Enterprises, on Twitter to be part of their signed merch giveaway. Win that Deontay Johnson jersey, guys. Shoot on over to at Total Sports ENT, and then check out their website, www.tseshop.com. They've got a pre-sign for Juju Smith-Schuster signing coming up. So that's something. Go on their website, get that information, www.tseshop.com. You too can get great unique gifts on the SteelerNation.com gear page, like this Champions shirt I am wearing right now. Put this on because we are currently the champions and the fan base being undefeated. So go on over to SteelerNation.com, click on the gear page, buy one of these great T-shirts, support us, and show your pride here at these virtual tailgates. SteelerNation.com is the best site for fast, unique Steelers content on the internet. Click the podcast button to listen to one of our many interviews, or click the forum button for the best football discussion on the web. Subscribe to the SteelerNation.com YouTube channel to watch these podcasts here as a vidcast, as a recast, and also be the first in the video uploads. www.youtube.com/C/SteelerNation. Tweet us at SteelerNation. Instagram us at SteelerNation.com. Follow the Steeler Nation podcast on Twitter at _SN Podcast, or Instagram at Steeler Nation Podcast, or follow me on both Twitter and Instagram at SN Striker. Thanks for joining us for the SteelerNation.com podcast, sponsored by Total Sports Enterprises. I'm your host, G.Stryker, with Hunter Homistek, rooting along with you as always. Go